Good news for short-term medical, the government has agreed not to enforce the law. What does that mean? We got to back to the first Trump administration when they said, hey, short-term medical can be up to 36 months, 3 years. Their goal was to get the healthy people out of the Affordable Care Act, go to short-term medical, which is about half the price, or it was at least at that time, half the price of the Affordable Care Act, which would help gut the Affordable Care Act, which was the goal. So they made short-term medical be 3 years, was a nice bridge into Medicare. We had a lot of people that were very interested in going that route. But then the new administration that took over, the Democrats said, nope, we have to support the Affordable Care Act. And to shore it up, we have to make short-term medical go back to being very short-term. So 1 year maximum. When did this happen? It actually happened August 7th, 2025 by the Department of Labor and HHS. So if you want to go look at the actual regulation and read it, because I'm kind of hitting here and there on it, what they said is we're not going to prioritize federal enforcement of the short-term medical rule, limited duration insurance plan, STDLI, something like that. I got the gist of the law, which is the federal government is not going to enforce it. We're not going to prioritize enforcement. And they encourage the states to do so as well. So then we get into a blue state, red state thing. So check with your states, because some states never allowed 36-month short term and some states did. The majority of them did allow 36 months. So they now have the green light federally to go back to 36 months on short-term plan. Again, will your state do it or not? I would say if it's a red state, you're going to be good to go. We have to follow the lead of the carriers. And so far, the carriers are saying, yeah, we're coming out October 1st or ish with new plans, short-term plans that will be able to accomplish this goal, which is more than a limited 3-month plan, which was what the final rule was when it was issued in 2024. So that we expected the new administration to do this, and here we go. Ideally, they will make a new rule, which would make it clean cut for everyone. But the government has a lot of things on its plate right now. So I don't know if we'll get there or we'll just be here operating in the gray where there's not enforcement. Wait and see, because everybody would love to have a clear rule that a short-term plan, limited duration insurance plan can be 36 months continuous, like we used to have back in 2018. I don't know if we're going to get there, but this is an improvement to where we were for the last 4 years. So here we are. Once the Republicans took power, those of us that were in the short-term market said, oh, good, we expect to go back to 36 months. And during the campaign, that was something that the president said, yeah, we're going to go back to that because they don't want to do anything that would help shore up the ACA. So they haven't changed the law. There hasn't been anything that says short-term medical can now be 3 years again. What they did do is there's some kind of lawsuit, and they said, yeah, we're not gonna enforce it. Okay, so the insurance companies have to be the one that decide whether to do that or not. So what they're doing is they're getting a little creative, and they said that, okay, we want to give you 36 months of coverage. So we're going to write you 1 year at a time with different corporate entities that we have, which gives you 3 years of coverage. So let's just go back to what short-term coverage is. Short-term medical coverage, there's only a few players in the market. Short-term medical coverage is what we like to call a bridge to Medicare. And it's meant for people that are healthy. So if you have pre-existing conditions, like I already have like aggravated back and I need surgery, it's not for you. It's not going to cover pre-existing conditions. So, but the healthy people, they can go in there and they can get a defined benefit. This is what you get. And it's not as good of coverage as ACA, as broad a coverage. But if you're healthy, you might like the risk and you might say, yeah, that's worth my money. I want to get me to Medicare. I want to stay on that 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. So when the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act expire and all the rate increases that we're seeing are coming for the Affordable Care Act for 2026, and And what they were expecting is that millions of people are going to say, I can't afford to stay in the Affordable Care Act. They're going to come to you and they're going to say, what other options do you have? Because I'm not ready for Medicare yet. Actually, a lot of them will say, I think I'll just take Medicare early, because a lot of people think that since you can take Social Security early, that you can take Medicare early. They're like, well, I know somebody that's on Medicare and they're only 55 because they qualified through Social Security disability. So you can't choose Medicare early. Your choice, if you can't afford the Affordable Care Act and you're not fortunate enough to be able to go on your spouse's health insurance plan, you don't get another job where you get health insurance through your employer. You might have no income. You might qualify for Medicaid. They're making that tougher to get as well. So your choice might be to get short-term medical, or some people are just going to buy some pieces here. They might buy some short-term care, a 90-day care because they need rehab, or they might buy a cancer, heart attack, and stroke, or they might buy just a dent. They might just buy a couple different pieces, which is okay as long as you don't mislead them into thinking that all these pieces equal comprehensive medical care. So don't get yourself in trouble. There have been people sued for doing that. Make sure you explain to them exactly what they're buying, and it is not the Affordable Care Act. It is the best they can buy if they can't afford the Affordable Care Act and they're not yet eligible for Medicare and they want to have some insurance protection. Now, you might get asked about health insurance ministries, health share plans. They're called different things. The one thing I want you to know about those, even though Gord Marketing has used a health share ministry for years, I'll true up, is they're not insurance plans. So when they say, what are my other insurance options? That's not an insurance option. That is possibly an option, depending on how you feel about it. I know millions of people have health shares. I can't say I'm exactly for it or against it. I'd say I'm more neutral, as long as people 100% know what they buy. And that's the thing with any insurance. Most of the complaints to Medicare are just because the consumer, the member, didn't understand what they were buying. They just didn't understand it. And so if you're going to sell health share ministries, which I'm not going to go into the pros and cons on this video other than saying it's not insurance, it doesn't have the protections of insurance, make sure your clients 100% understand what they're buying. In most cases, to stay on the safe side of things, most agents are going to say Affordable Care Act or buying a variety of short-term medical, hospital indemnity, dental, vision, hearing, cancer, heart attack, stroke plans to bridge them over to Medicare. So it's going to be a crazy year if you are big in the Affordable Care Act, the under 65 market. A lot of us don't want to be in that market. It's up and down and crazy. But we need to be, because if we're mainly in the Medicare market, we're always having to take care of the younger spouse that's in the ACA market. So if you're not yet in the ACA market, we're very big in the ACA market. Call your marketer at Gord Marketing. It's not too late to get into it. We can guide you to get you started so you're not walking away from that business. And if you don't want to do that business, we can refer you to an agent that can help you if you need referrals for that business. Thanks for watching. Rebecca will be back next week. If you don't follow our channel, I'd appreciate if you would give us a follow. If you have questions specific to this video, please ask me in the comments below. We'll answer them. Thanks.